and the better mousetrap usually wins. But the people with the second or third best mousetrap will try to keep that from happening. The ones you name, I don't know anything about. I mean, I know what they do, but I don't know their specific prospects, which is why we kind of stay away from that sort of thing, because we know there'll be change, and we don't know who the winners will be. And we try to stick with businesses where we know the winners. We know and that our energy companies, that our railroad, a lot of our businesses are very, very, very likely to be winners. And that doesn't mean they don't have some change involved with them, but they're going to be winners. And then there's other fields where we can't pick the winners, and so we just sit and watch, and we find them interesting, but we don't get tempted. Charlie?
Well, I think the new technology is going to be quite disruptive to a lot of people. And I think retailing in particular is facing some very significant threats. And you heard Greg Abel talk about a power plant in Iowa that was huge to serve one Google's server farm. When you get computer capacity all over the world on this scale, it is changing the world. I mean, you're talking about
Fast, too.
Yeah, and fast. So, and I think it's going to hurt a lot of people, just as all the past technology investments hurt a lot of people. I think Berkshire, by and large, is in pretty good shape.
Where do you think we're most vulnerable?
Well, I don't think I want to name them.
Okay. Now you've got them all wondering, Charlie. I probably shouldn't tell you this when Charlie is having a little trouble there on those last two words. I get a little worried about Charlie. Don't know whether I should talk about this, but I thought maybe he was losing his hearing, and I didn't want to confront him with it. I mean, we've been pals for a long time, so I went to the doctor and I said, "Doc, I've got this wonderful partner, but I think maybe his hearing is going on him, and I don't want to talk to him about it. I mean, how do you say that to somebody you've known that long? And what should I do?" He says, "Well, you stand across the room, talk to him in a normal course of tone of voice, and let me know what happens." So the next time I was with Charlie, I stood across the room and I said, "Charlie, I think we ought to buy General Motors at 35. Do you agree?" Not a flicker. I go halfway across the room. I said, "Charlie, I think we ought to buy General Motors at 35. Do you agree?" Nothing. Get right next to him, in his ear. "Charlie, I think we ought to buy General Motors at 35. Do you agree?" He said, for the third time, yes. So speak up, speak up.
Do you ever have any plans, or would you be interested in buying a professional sport team or sports equipment manufacturing company? Being that sports is in a global world today, or is this out of the Berkshire game?
Warren's already done it.
I owned a quarter of a minor league team, but it's not responsible for my position on the Forbes 400. The answer to your question about buying a sports team is no. In fact, if Charlie and I, if you read that either one of us is buying a sports team, it may be time to talk about successors. Sports equipment has generally not been a very good business, although obviously Nike's done incredibly well in its overall operation. But we own Spalding, we own Russell, and Spalding has been around a long, long time. A.G. Spalding, I forget when the hell he was. I think he was trying to take baseball to the rest of the world back in the 1880s or something like that. But it's generally speaking, if you look at the people that have made golf equipment, footballs, helmets particularly, baseball gloves, baseballs. It's not been a particularly profitable business, and certain aspects of it, like helmets, the last thing Berkshire should do is own a helmet company. A helmet company should be owned by some guy that owes about $1 million and doesn't have a dime to his name, because he is not going to be a target, and we would be the ultimate target. That's the reason we used to be in, but we had no interest in, and we got offered the chance to buy the whole place, and the idea of owning a business that provided guards at airports, when anything went wrong, you're going to say that it was the guard's fault, and here's this super rich corporation around there that is a perfect target. I mean, a guard company at airports, again, should be owned by somebody whose net worth does not get out to two figures. So that you won't see much of us in the sports arena. But, Charlie, are you looking at the Clippers? Or now I'm worried that he is. No.
Whatever Warren thinks about sports teams ownership, I like it less.
What do you make of the larger trend of activism in corporate America, given that it's in the news so much today?
Well, I don't think it'll go away, and I think it scares the hell out of a lot of managers. There are cases, certainly cases where corporate management should be changed. I mean, you can't have thousands of corporations without that being the case. I think, generally speaking, that the activists, if they get the price of the stock up one way or another, that's going to end their interest in the business. So I don't think they're looking for, often they're not looking for permanent changes for the better in the business, but they're looking for a specific event that will result in a big price change. And they're certainly attracting more and more money. In other words, the funds flowing to activist hedge funds and so on is multiplied, I'm sure, by a significant factor. And that means they can play the game on a bigger scale. And anything in Wall Street that looks like it's successful will generate a funds flow that will go on until it's no longer successful. Charlie?
Well, you're right that the activism is causing more of a stir in corporate management than anything has in years. Practically nobody feels immune. When an activist comes into a company, 20 or 30% of the stock can change hands rather rapidly, and a management that seemed entrenched suddenly is threatened. And of course, that sort of thing causes a lot of anguish. And on the other side, the activists, by and large, are making a fair amount of money. And of course, in the culture we live in, most people don't care how the money is earned. They just care whether they get it or not. And so that just grows like the beanstalk of Jack. And so I think we have a very significant effect. And some of the stuff, you'll find an activist who is not what you'd want to marry into the family, going after a company you would never buy into. And when that happens, it reminds me of Oscar Wilde's definition of fox hunting. He said, the pursuit of the uneatable by the unspeakable. And I think we're seeing some of that. I don't think it's good for America what's happening.
Where do you think
averaged out?
Where do you think it'll be 3 years from now?
Bigger.
Wow.
Well, what's stopping it?
Now, if it's bigger 3 years from now, it'll be a lot bigger. I mean, just the compounding of numbers.
It's really serious.